We're live. I'm here with Victress Hitchcock, and I'm so excited. I've been really looking forward to um, this chat, and we will just give it a couple moments and let people get into the chat room. And I am going to, right from the beginning, I'll probably do this again. I'm going to drop Victress's website into the chat. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me for this. And it's really an honor to be here with you.
Well, I'm really excited actually. It's
Mhm.
an opportunity to really, your questions, your kind of ideas to really look at, what is it that I do and why? And
Yeah.
why should I
Yeah.
do it?
Yeah. I mean, it's true. Amazing when there's someone that has done so much as you have in so many, different contexts. It can be I would imagine it would be a challenge to sort of, conceptualize it into a sound bite, which is what, we tend to need these days. Anyway, not a sound bite, but, well, let me just, share with our viewers a short, version of your bio, which is always way too short here on Substack, but I'm just gonna read your bio from Substack, and you can elaborate on that. Victress is a writer, a filmmaker, a mother, a grandmother, a meditator, a teacher, and a lover of dogs and horses. Her debut memoir, A Tree with My Name on It, which she can wave right now.
Mm, okay. So, yeah.
It's a beautiful book. I've read this book. I loved this book. Um, and it won the 2025 Memoir of the Year award from the Colorado Authors League. So congratulations on that. I did not know that. So Victress is the daughter of diplomats, and started traveling at age 4. She lived in London, Paris, Madrid, and then started traveling throughout South Asia and the Indian or the Buddhist South Asia specifically. She worked with Mother Teresa, which I had no idea. I'm very inspired by that. And then she went to film school where she met some folks and started making documentaries, especially after she met her teacher, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche, and started making documentaries on a variety of important cultural topics. She's also ordained as a Buddhist teacher, which I also did not know. That must have been recent, um, and or since I've met you, rather. And she wrote the memoir in 2023, and has been teaching workshops on contemplative practice and writing, which is how I got to this point of inviting her to be on this live series, because the contemplative practice and creative process is really sort of the where my interest lies and where our interests intersect. So I will let Victress share the rest of her about, and yeah, just say thank you for joining me.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I mean, it's kind of, it's a wonderful opportunity to also a wonderful opportunity when you're sort of preparing for this kind of thing to just to kind of coalesce idea, remi- to revisit why you're doing this.
Mm.
Why do I meditate? Why do I write? What joins the two together? Is there any common ground? Because somehow people think meditating, you're just kind of sitting on a cushion, writing, you're just in front of a computer or with a pen and paper. And actually, it's taken a long time for me to realize both in writing and filmmaking and in meditating or any kind of contemplative work that they're both the heart of both of those are exactly the same. And I think the reason that it takes so long for us to get there is that, at the beginning, when we're young, first of all, those of us who grew up in the '50s, we were not in any way encouraged into the in our creativity was not really encouraged. You know, you had to draw within the lines, paint within the numbers, and write, you know, like, you had to write to the specifications of good English and all that. Um, and I think we got the idea that well, a couple of ideas. We got the idea, first of all, that only certain people got the creative gift, you know, and those of the rest of us were we would never we didn't have it. We didn't get that gift. So and the only other way we felt like we could get in do any of that was to be tortured. You know, like, we had this image of the artist as tortured. I certainly had a very tortured childhood and very much a childhood where I spent my time in books
Mm,
and then in films when I was older, so I had that sort of connection, but I believed that, I had to sort of cultivate tortured, which wasn't hard for me,
uh-huh,
to even imagine going into the creative world. You know, I was like the bell jar was the manual of the times for those of us who were kind of wearing a lot of black and smoking a lot of cigarettes as teenagers. So, I think what happened for me there every sort of dark cloud of which I felt like having a negative bias, I sort of went straight for the dark cloud, but then it took many, many, many decades to really get all the silver linings, you know, underneath the dark clouds, and one of them was, of course, finding meditation
mhm,
and finding a teacher who was very brilliant, as you said, Chogyam Trungpa Rinpoche. But I so what I started to see, and it took a while in meditation and in certainly in creative work, was that it's actually all about let me see how I can put this. It isn't theoretical. It
mhm.
isn't something that the mind conjures up. And in fact, the best way to, um, be have a creative to follow your creative energy and to meditate is to get out of your own way, to get out of your mind, out of the messages from your mind. So in my case, um, I mean, it took a long time. It took literally, I thought, you know, like so I woke up one day and thought, oh, meditation. Oh, it's actually about me. It's not like about how to get really good at following my breath. It's about what's going on in my mind or, you know, and and seeing how it's getting in my way and all of that. And the same way with writing, like, I was thinking about the first thing I ever wrote in high school that was published, you know? I mean, I saw it not too long ago. I unearthed it when I was packing and to move, and I was like, "Whoa." It was about an old lady in a park. I mean, I'm a teenager, you know, I'm 15, I'm writing this. I have absolutely no idea. It's like a total concept. It's
Uh-huh,
completely conceptual mind, 100%. And so I I think to make it short and sweet, the intersection between creativity and contemplative or meditative practice is the same, which is natural awareness.
mm,
The base of all of it is just that sort of open space where your mind's not dictating the experience.
yeah,
So you're not sitting there thinking, "Oh, I'm getting more peaceful,"
right,
when you actually you're just numbing out on the
right,
meditation cushion. Or, "Oh, look," you know, "Oh, I need to put more of this into that in my writing," or it has to I was thinking about yeah, anyway, so that I think that is the very simple way of you know, that creative energy and the longing to be free,
yes,
the heart of meditation, free of our conceptual. frameworks that kind of bind us, those 2 are actually identical,
Right. Identical meaning they come from the same place?
meaning they yes, and meaning in maybe even more than maybe they are the same.
Hmm.
In other words, if you both of them and I think at the beginning of our practices of both, we have the idea, like I said, that it's our mind that's what we need to listen to. But both of them are are much more embodied than we originally like, back when I was writing about old ladies in the park, I did there was nothing
Yeah.
connecting me with I don't even know if I saw the old lady in the park, and that is the other part about it, is that I think that there are some very basic things. There's the, um, getting out of our way, getting out of our mind dictating. There's being true to that, to ourselves, to that sort of our actual how our body actually reacts to things. Staying embodied when you're writing, not yeah, I feel like there's a we know when the writing is alive and when it's dead.
Yeah.
When we read somebody else's writing that's alive, we just like, "Woo!" There's a connection that starts to happen energetically. When we read writing that's dead, he really was happy that I joined him at coffee shop because really I could tell there was something more going on. That's dead writing, right?
Mhm.
The actual, sitting there, my toes are twitching, I'm feeling the nerve, my stomach, and I can tell, he's got a turquoise bracelet on, I'm fixated on, whatever
Yeah.
details, obviously, is always good. Um, but yeah, I think that's yeah, you've got something you wanna
Well, yeah, I mean, it's fascinating. This is it's so visceral, even the way you're describing the process. Like, I feel my toes twitching, you
yeah,
know,
yeah,
and
me too.
I'm looking for the turquoise bracelet.
Yeah,
But I'm curious, how does this play into, when you are actually creating? I mean, is it just sitting and listening, expressing in words or visual, and then stepping is it like a dance? Is it like stepping out, stepping in?
that's a good question, that's a really good question. Um, I think the story itself, whether it's a nonfiction, I've never attempted to write real fiction. I've written film scripts, which are fiction, but the story itself, it's almost like you have to find the opening link. Like, for instance, the opening connection to the story. Like, for instance, when I wrote, A Tree with My Name on it, so it was years in the making. I mean, the story happened 20 odd years before I started writing it, and, um and I was going around and around in circles for a year, like, literally, and all of it I was starting the story I was 50 years old, my hormones were driving me crazy. I had these ways of where I thought I had to enter the story that way, and it was just going into this same sort of circular nowhere
Mm,
going nowhere. And I reached out to a memoir coach, and the one thing he said to me, and he sort of sat with me as I wrote going forward, but the one thing he said at the beginning is he said, "Once you find that opening
mm,
scene, then the story will start to," it's almost like it kind of those, like the red carpet, they
yeah,
unrolls and you start walking. It's got that quality where the path sort of keep is open, and then so in my case in my case, it had to do with suddenly I sat there the longest time I sat there, "Oh, yeah, yeah, I should start the story where the story started." That was like, duh, So I sat down and wrote the scene of reading the classifieds in the Denver Post
Right.
advertising this, you know, "Come see this place, this 160-year-old homestead in the wet mountains, blah, 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 you'll fall in love, blah, blah, blah." I just started the scene right there. I'm there, I'm set the stage, and then it like it was like the magic, um, you know, it opened up the Pandora's box or whatever that image is, uh, and partly that's because I entered my body. Okay, what was it like? What did it actually feel like in my body when I saw that little teeny, it wasn't like a big ad, it was like a little teeny, classified, and I looked at it and I went, "Something," and I think that is also the key to this alive quality, is like everybody has creativity,
Mhm.
everybody, and we are not, given that information when we're young, or we certainly weren't in the '50s.
Right.
Um, so I didn't understand that when I felt that sort of bubbling up, like, visceral, tingly, whatever, when I see clouds suddenly become, Pegasus, just staring out the apartment window, and then suddenly these clouds would become this horse, and I didn't realize that that was creativity. That was, like, one step from writing a song,
Right.
because nobody gave me that link. And um, so I think that is it's the alive it's the alive mind. It's the alive, quality of our own experience, and it has to do one of the keys that we're not also encouraged to understand is curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity, patience, um, giving yourself enough time.
Mm.
And the key to all of it is paying attention.
Yeah.
And that's true with our meditation practice, with our writing practice, with making films. You're a painter. I've never had that sort of inclination, though I do sort of think, "Oh, I would," I love color and I love shapes and all that. But yeah, it's kind of trust it's developing a certain trust that
Mhm.
you're not necessarily you're dancing, like you used that word earlier. You're dancing with this other, um there's a story in or chapter in my book called Joining Fantasy and Reality. I don't know if you remember that one. It has to do with a talk the Dalai Lama gave,
Oh, uh-huh.
and someone asked him why intimate relationships are so difficult.
Oh, mhm.
After a long pause, he said, "Because it's so hard to join fantasy and reality." And I think that is and he said, "And that's true in everything in life." And that is the key. That is the key. We have a fantasy about we're gonna get peaceful meditating.
Right.
The reality is totally different. We
Mhm.
have a fantasy that we're gonna create this book that's gonna have this, and it's gonna have all of these. It's a messy mess. It's a mess when you actually get to the reality of your story,
Yeah.
it's filled with all kinds of, conflicting emotions, and it's hard work kind of letting that keep being unearthed
Yeah.
and keep showing up and not running away from it, and that's all about becoming intimate. We
Yes.
become intimate with ourselves in meditation. That's the word meditation in Sanskrit. It means becoming familiar with. We become intimate with ourselves and as we follow a creative process of just jumping in, when we don't want to.
Mhm.
Anyway,
It's edgy.
edgy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I keep going back to that image of the red carpet unfurling and finding your starting place, and then having the word that keeps coming, for obvious reasons, is the thread. Because as we find the thread of our narrative or of our series or of our, you know, um, whatever else, the thread of a creative project could be, I'm also aware that that's what we call the path of uh, Tantra. It's that it is a thread. And I'm curious, this just occurred to me. I'm curious if you have some sort of insight about how those threads mirror each other.
Well, we all know one place where our meditation practice and our writing or whatever, creative practice is we all, at least I certainly experience, and I know many other people do too. The hardest part is sitting down on the cushion. The hardest part is getting yourself in front of the computer or in front of your page or in front of your canvas or in the editing room, whatever it is. Th the actual the opening the gate kind of thing, to this path. That is the hardest part, and I remember and I actually believe that there's a certain wisdom to procrastination, but that's a whole other topic, because I find that I've have spent hours, not so much with meditation anymore because I love it,
Mhm.
but back in the day, I would do everything I could think of. I would be straightening the curtains. I would be making sure that my tea was sitting in the right place. I would be, whatever. And then, you just kind of wear out. It's like Trungpa said, you wear out your ego like an old shoe. You just wear it out. And I think that quality of path is sticking with it. You can stick with it no matter how uncomfortable it might be, and then I think at a certain point, there's almost like a, "Oh, well, what the hell," quality.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I
Yeah.
may as well just write a little something, I'm sitting here,
Yeah.
and then the minute you let that horse out of the gate, so to speak, the minute you let that, um, start to have a life of its own. And the same way with meditation, obviously, is you think, "Oh, that's interesting. I'm having the same thoughts I was stuck with yesterday." Now, is there a way, like, I don't know, there's something that can you it takes a leap. Let's people always talk about leap of faith back in, that was an old timey expression, but it does take a leap, both of them.
Yeah.
At the beginning, it's not easy meditating, it's not easy writing, it's not easy painting, and none of it's like a walk in the park.
Right.
So but there is this gradual, if you keep throwing yourself or, like, I just had this image of people prostrating, but if you keep,
Yeah.
you know, if you just keep entering and sitting yourself down and whatever, gradually and trust that something's, and and if it's just absolute pure torture, get up and take a walk.
Right.
Really, I mean,
Yeah.
because there's no point in killing yourself in beating your head against the wall.
Yes. You make it sound so simple. I mean, really, it's like the way that I'm hearing you now is just keep showing up and confronting whatever viscerally arises and let that spark the response and then repeat.
Yeah, I think and even if you're writing, Annie Lamott has always been famous for saying, "You're writing the worst shit you've ever heard or seen or read," or you just keep doing it.
Yeah,
And and we're not talking about the editing process down the
right.
line. We're not talking about honing it in and, pruning and bringing out the real gems. We're talking about the first let it all hang out, however much bullshit it is, and you'll know as you read it, because reading your work aloud as a writer is probably the best gift ever.
Yeah, or the
You'll
most painful.
or the what?
Or the most painful.
Oh, yeah, but you'll know what's alive and what's not.
Mhm.
Then you feel like, "Oh, I'll skip this bit." Well, that's a good indication that that bit is probably gonna be skipped by any reader.
Yes.
And so there's a trust. I think it's the trust, the curiosity, the attention, the awareness, coming back to the awareness, um, making a relationship with space,
Yeah,
and all of those things are the same for both endeavors, both you're
right.
working with your mind. You're working with your mind, and then the other thing with writing, I just wanna throw in there because started to realize, and it was true in filmmaking as well, but which I did for 45 years, but is that I started you also, falling in love with your medium.
Mm,
The medium is really helpful. I mean, not helpful, it's essential,
yeah.
and falling in love with how, like, if you're making a film, I was an editor initially. I loved the way you could get sound and people's story and the visual and all these things sort of weaving, you know, in layers. In film, you layers things, and then writing, yeah, I love words. I'm more and more and more I'm loving words and how they. Like, I was thinking the other day, I was reading something and the person said that such and such was driving them mad. Then I thought, "Well, what about driving me crazy or driving me nuts?" I thought. And all 3 of those have completely different, they evoke completely different responses in the reader, in the emotions, in the story. Like, driving me nuts and driving me mad,
Yeah,
you can hear it in the word, in the
yeah,
in selecting the word that I are you trying to go edge? It drives me to the edge of my rope, as my old friend used to call it, or are you talking about a slow descent into something dark and where you don't wanna go? And
yeah,
so you're a painter, so, the medium, the texture of that's another element, I think, of creativity that's also visceral.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, it was a medium that changed my life. It was when I discovered the encaustic wax that I was so excited by it and just needed to touch it all the time, and
Mhm.
it changed my life to work with it. So I get that. Um, yeah, and words. I mean, words have been part of my practice since I was 11. I also have been writing for a very long time. And you mentioned something about earlier about not being encouraged to be creative in a, in your youth. And I do see, there is an evolution of how, we teach people or not to embrace creativity. And I'm just wondering how you feel about the current times in terms of, maybe why creativity is important or why applying contemplative practice or practicing meditation is important right now, especially.
I've been watching my grandson grow. He's
Mm,
now 15. I've seen the brilliance of him playing the piano naked at 4 years old, out of the blue. I've
wow.
seen artwork come out of him. I've seen and, all of these and of course, now he's a teenager, he plays baseball, but
Mhm.
that's okay. What that was sort of a digression right there. I think the reason it's important is really has to do with the speed of our lives,
Yeah,
both of the things, because it's very hard to pay attention to what's going on in our bodies, what's going on in our emotional up and down, what's going on outside. I mean, yesterday I sat and watched 3 turkeys in my yard, and the 3 turkeys, at first, they were all staring together, and then about 10 minutes in, they all started plucking at their thumbs, and then about 5 minutes after that, and then meanwhile, somebody went by with on a I was watching all of this life unfold, and my goodness, that is something that is a joy and a that people don't let d haven't don't give themselves that kind of joy
yeah,
anymore. They're on their phone.
yep,
They're on their phone. So their entire world is constricted into this little box, and meanwhile, all this brilliance is going on around them.
yeah,
And I think from that point of view, anything we can do to encourage and to nurture and to, um, open our the this natural curiosity, this natural awareness we have, this natural connection with others that is lost when we're stuck in this technological world.
yeah.
And so I think from that point of view, anything you can do to keep that connection with life.
Yes. So you're saying people should watch more turkeys?
Well, it was a wonderful moment where I thought, "Well, are they communicating that now it's time to start cleaning our s and we're done with looking very majestic staring out into space?" Or,
Yeah,
yeah, I think we just need to live more, live in a embodied world here, now.
yes, yes. Wonderful. I completely agree, and yet, here we have these technologies that allow us to do things like this, and so it's a
And I
double-edged
write
sword.
on the computer. I write on the computer.
Yeah,
And I'm not, I have so much arthritis, writing with a pencil, kill me. So, I'm not saying we can't use it, but let's not have it use us.
exactly. Yeah, and, more and more, I find that the creative, um, time in the studio or time writing, especially with pen and paper, which I still do, mostly, um, it's become a meditation, it is the practice because, even though I still do maintain the meditation, it's like after a while you can sort of weave it in, and I mean, that was the instruction, you weave it into your daily life, and, I'm sure it's not always the case, but that's the aspiration, and so that, yeah, so it's helpful to hear your thoughts about that, and I'm gonna drop your link, as we
Oh, yeah,
get
please.
end of our thing. I'm dropping Victress's, website link there, and, I highly recommend her book, A Tree with My Name on It, just because it's an amazing story, like, it reads like fiction, I could not put it down. It's a really good story, but it also just kind of goes into a lot of this, like, um, y how do you develop a mind from, confusion to wisdom, basically? Can I put it like that?
Well, well, how do you actually face your demons? Is
Yeah.
really how do you actually open the door crack bit by bit,
Mhm.
to let in all that you've been barricading against that has also kept you from living. And in
Yeah.
the case of being in this remote place with absolutely nothing familiar around me, I had to do that.
Mhm.
And it was and it you know, little did I know that if I opened it up to all that was, that I was trying to avoid, it also let in a whole bunch of joy that I didn't realize I was also barricading myself against.
Right.
So that story was the story is sort of a facing your feeding your demons kinda tale, really, uh, in the flesh, on a horse, in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, and actually now that you mention it, it makes perfect sense to me because I remember thinking as I was reading it, it reads like a screenplay, and that, that would make sense being written by a filmmaker.
Mhm.
And so it's like you're very clear about the narrative arc and how to bring in the correct amount of detail versus panning out and honing in. And it was really well done that way, which as a writer is instructive. It was really interesting for me to read that from that perspective. So,
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and I really appreciate, this opportunity because it's helped me also kind of revisit the texture and the vividness of why I do this,
mm.
it's not just like, oh my god," Of
Yes,
course, now I'm in the hell realm of promoting.
right.
Really think about that. You got the creative part, whoa, and then you have this book, and then
Yeah,
it's like you're pimping your book all the time, like, "Oh,
right.
hello, I'm reviews," and, it's like hell. I'm m making friends with that now too.
Well, and yeah, so same thing. Just, isn't it? We just show up. At least you're doing it. I basically, yeah, anyway, well done for doing it. um, and so we can learn more about your work through your book and also your films. I want to just mention when the iron bird flies, I think that's when I first learned about you and your work. It was an amazing introduction to how Buddhism came to the West. So, if anyone's interested in that, is there another one or two that you might want to highlight?
Well, yeah, that's another thing on my website. You can find there's a whole page on films, and
Hmm.
then there's a whole page on about the Iron Bird and so on, or I mean, a tree with my name on it, but I always called When the Iron Bird Flies Iron Bird because it's shorter and sweeter,
Hmm.
but, yeah, you can find out where to watch them.
Hmm.
When the Iron Bird Flies, you can find on Amazon, you can find it on actually, there's a new Buddhist film channel that both that film and the one that's closest to my heart, I've been feeling very tender about When the Iron Bird Flies as well. But the first Buddhist film that I did with Sonny Rinpoche, this teacher who you would know in Crestone,
Hmm. Hmm.
was called Blessings. Blessings, the Sonny Nanshan nuns of Tibet, and that also and I think there's actually a link to it on my website where you can watch it for free
Okay.
because, yeah, it that broke open my heart in ways, that sort of tangential with the ranch experience, which is
Mhm.
just before, in ways that I just couldn't have imagined being in that environment with these women
Right.
and the and really feeling what it means to live your practice,
Mhm.
live meditation, live your creativity, whatever, I mean, there was so much creativity and so much awareness and so much joy and so much kindness. So that film, I sort of recommend, to people, and people have told me that, they watch it sort of regularly when they need a little,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and
Okay.
it
Good
is
tip.
yeah. So there's that, and then, any one of the earlier films you might give it a try, the reality of prison life. That's a real joy. No, there's a lot. I spent a lot of time in prisons with telling people stories.
Yeah. Wow. I
Yeah.
feel like there's so much here, but, in the interest of keeping it, short and sweet, perhaps we could do this again. Uh,
We'll just keep talking.
yeah, I was gonna ask one final, thing about your, workshops. Are you planning on offering any of those anytime soon? The creativity and contemplative practice workshops?
I started doing them with Barbara Bash, an artist and calligrapher. We really had a good time with that, and, um, we've sort of I don't know, it hasn't really emerged, though I have had 2 things have happened. Either people have asked me, or like, for instance, a woman reached out to me who lives in a not assisted living, but lower income housing place in the East Coast, and she's getting a grant to do something in both hybrid, like live and in person, or probably just in Zoom. But and that kind of really interests me, like, to do a day-long workshop with a
Mm,
particular group of people. And these are all people who senior, lower income, and they're interested in doing this. I live in a place here that I'm also interested in offering
mm,
memoir and meditation. There's a sort of combination of memoir and meditation.
mhm,
Um, so I'm interested in doing it. I've been in the process of moving. I've been in the
right.
process of all this the hell realm of marketing, and but I love teaching. I
Mhm,
love teaching those either a day long, a
mm,
weekend. We did a 4-day, 4.5-day in-person, group in, Sebastopol that
mhm,
was phenomenal. We just had such a good time. So I do love doing it. I just need to be sort of encouraged or invited
mhm.
or,
Okay, duly
in
noted. Because I would love to participate or, potentially even collaborate or help create. Yeah, let's,
yeah, yeah,
bookmark.
yeah, anything if something comes up or if anybody here did anybody here have a question? I don't know if there was anything in the chat or we
Yeah, I forgot to mention that if anyone had questions, but, um
and they can also write me on my website on the contact page. There is a, way of contacting me, directly into my
yes, and this, video will be, posted on Substack as a post, and then there will be a comment thread, so if people wanna follow up with you afterward, you can engage, in a deeper way on that, so
Great, and I'm very happy to answer anybody's questions if they in that context or in the context of contacting me directly. I'm I love also and I've been doing a little bit of work. In fact, I see somebody in the group here, a little bit of work with helping people with their manuscripts as well, like reading manuscripts or reading not doing the actual developmental edit, but doing the developmental read, like,
Mhm.
"It's kinda working, this isn't maybe moving," that kind of stuff. I also love that. My old editor brain does well with that
Ah,
work
good
too.
to know.
I've
Okay,
done that for a few people now.
wonderful. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
okay,
yeah, so thank you so much for joining, it was
for inviting me.
really, really a pleasure. And I hope we'll get an opportunity to do something like this or maybe something different again in the future. So
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you,
thank
Kim.
thank you
Been
everyone for joining, and you'll get a well, we'll see you in the recorded version of this and maybe in the chat there. Okay, may it be of benefit.
absolutely, thank you.
Thanks. Bye bye.
Bye-bye.